We hear from FQHCs all over the country that they're confused in how EHB, OPAIS, and registration works for their entity-owned pharmacies. It's important in an FQHC pharmacy to understand how EHB and OPAIS works when in relation to your entity-owned pharmacy. In OPAIS, your entity-owned pharmacy is never going to be registered under the contract pharmacy tab. That tab is dedicated to pharmacies in which you have an existing contract, not ones that you are the legal owner of. Seems kind of logical that there's a pharmacies tab that would be where you would register your entity-owned pharmacy as well, but that really isn't the case. In fact, your pharmacy may not show up on OPAIS at all. If your pharmacy is co-located in a clinic that's already showing up on OPAIS, it may not be necessary to register that pharmacy on OPAIS. So if you're not supposed to register your pharmacy under the contract pharmacy section on OPAIS, what do you do? HRSA's FAQ 1364 actually defines what an entity-owned pharmacy is. So an entity-owned pharmacy is owned by an illegal part of the covered entity. In addition, FAQ 1364 says that typically entity-owned pharmacies are listed as shipping addresses on OPAIS. The OPAIS user guide also supports this process. In its definition, it says that an in-house pharmacy, which is the same thing as an entity-owned pharmacy, is owned by the covered entity and is listed as a shipping address on OPAIS. So we've talked about OPAIS, so it's important to know how the electronic handbook or EHB interacts with that. EHB Form 5A lists all of the services that are in scope for the FQHC. Pharmaceutical services is one of those options under Form 5A. There is column 1, 2, and 3. So column 1 is where you would check mark if you have an entity-owned pharmacy, a sample program, or providing physician-administered drugs or clinic-administered drugs on site. You would check mark column 2 of pharmaceutical services if you're using contract pharmacy relationships. Finally, column 3 is only checked when you have a referral service that the health center does not pay for. The most common example of this would be if you have a relationship with a free or charitable pharmacy. Where Form 5A is talking about in-scope services, Form 5B discusses in-scope sites. So every site that your FQHC will be listed in Form 5B. Any of your clinics will be listed as service delivery sites. If you have a freestanding entity-owned pharmacy, it would be listed as an administrative site. On OPAIS, your freestanding pharmacies will not be listed as a delivery site on OPAIS, but will rather be listed as a shipping address on OPAIS. Form 5C is the everything else category. So these are services and sites that aren't listed in 5A or 5B. In FQHCs, a common example would be nursing homes. Those are not eligible sites to register on Form 5B, but those are patients that are considered in scope. Sometimes it's confusing knowing how OPAIS and EHB will work. We're here to help. You can contact us at fqhc340b.com and we'll be happy to set up a meeting to discuss how this works in your FQHC.